Perfect. Okay, good morning, everybody. As you guys hopefully know, I'm Scott Dolch. I'm the Executive Director for the Connecticut Restaurant Association. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully you've gotten shoveled out of your homes and your restaurants are and cater and all your facilities have been, I just got back from another hour of trying to get rid of the snow. But I hope everyone is safe. I'm hoping, I know a lot of your restaurants, you closed down yesterday because of the weather, looking to reopen today, or at least doing some takeout and to go, because I'm sure people are antsy to stop cooking inside their own homes. Also with me today is Nicole Griffin. So if you guys don't know Nicole is our contract lobbyist with the CRA at a state level. Nicole has well over a decade now, I guess, of experience with the CRA, being a former executive director herself. But she works tirelessly as our lobbyist throughout the year, helping us advocate. And we're going to get into that a little bit today. As I was joking with some of my board members, we're going to go through some of the things that are in front of us, but also trying to help some of you guys that haven't been a part of the CRA before to understand the role that Nicole and myself play and the rest of our team play, as well as the role that you need to play and helping protect our industry and help our industry not only recover during a pandemic, but what we deal with in normal times on a legislative side. So without further ado, I'll get this thing started and share my screen really quick. As Yvette asked me if I had a PowerPoint, and I do.
I think today too, we have with us Representative Ritigliano too, who might have more to add as we get into the legislative discussion. I saw his name on the.
Perfect. Dave, if you can hear us, good morning. And yes, we'll definitely, as you guys that don't know, Representative Ritigliano from the Trumbull area is a restaurateur himself. It's always great when we have legislative leaders in both the House and the Senate that not only have a restaurant background, but are an owner and understand the challenges each of you guys face and fight tirelessly. So I'm glad to have Dave on, and I know he'll give his insight here in a little bit when we get to the state side, like Nicole, of what he's seeing in this unique virtual session that we are undertaking right now. There is nothing, everything's got to be virtual. I actually testify on Thursday virtually via Zoom, which will be an interesting piece here, which we'll get into. So all right, so let's just kind of get started real quick. I'll kind of go through the presentation. As you guys know, I introduced Nicole and myself. Nicole is from Powers, Griffin and Hill. And then, all right, so what are the topics we're going to kind of touch on today? I'll give a quick association update with Yvette, Jennifer, and Emily and my team that are on. Talk just quickly about the Restaurant Relief Fund, which we launched, I guess, a week and a half ago. What that entails. Also a federal and state financial support update, where you are for support and what is out there for you. Then I was going to have someone from the National Restaurant Association. Unfortunately, they have board meetings this week. But Sean Kennedy, as some of you guys receive his notes and emails, he apologized he couldn't be on today, but I'll try to do the best I can for Sean and his team to kind of give you guys a lay of the land of down in DC. We'll go through the DCD guidelines and vaccination prioritization. I think I spelled that wrong. Apologize, early morning here, putting this together. And then we'll turn it over to Nicole for a legislative update. So just a quick association update. I know we talk about this all the time. Listen, since the pandemic hit, we understand the challenges all of you guys are facing. And we understand from a dues side, we want to be able to work with you, whether you've been a long-term time member or you've never been a member before. But at the same time, we're only as strong as the number of members that we have. Since taking over back in 2018, we had 472 members. We just surpassed 1,800 total members last month, which is phenomenal growth, but we still have a long way to go. And I just know that I talk about dues outreach, that Yvette Tavares on my team, who's phenomenal. If you haven't worked with Yvette, and Emily, we'll be kind of reaching out to you guys over the next few months just to talk about 2021 dues. Obviously, we typically send out dues at the beginning of the year for the course of the year, but we understand the times you're in. So please work with us, but we definitely want to keep you at least involved as a member, or hopefully add new members as we go along. The rate, so you guys know, is $400 for each restaurant. For your first restaurant, and $200 for every additional brick and mortar. So if you have 3 restaurants in your group, you're looking at $800. If you're just a one sole proprietor, it's a $400 investment. I hope even today's presentation will give you a quick snapshot of where your dollars go. And we're not even really going to talk about the allied member benefits that you have as well, and other things that we do. So definitely wanted to give that a shout out, because you'll see some letters coming out, or you'll see some information. And please work with our team. We understand every situation is different, but we hope you guys, as you look to join back to associations and chambers and things of that nature, you understand the value and what the CRA does for you, because all of our members, our membership drives what we do. From a serve safe standpoint, the manager program, if you guys need to get anybody in your restaurants, caterers, yourselves, recertified or certified for the first time, please understand we do all that in-house with discounts to CRA members. We are doing in-person classes. We have come back from that. We signed up 12 classes in early 2021 through May. We have 10 now available. I think one is actually already sold out in Newington. But if you would like to sign up for a class, understand we're going 25 or less. We're not going to the full 35 just for COVID reasons and spacing out. We have some large facilities, but again, please sign up for those classes. You can also do the online class and come into our office and take an in-person test. Jennifer Conklin-Smith on our team is kind of managing that. Or you can totally fully do it online, go through our website, and you could do online and take the test online. So you have those 3 options. I think, as everyone knows, the in-person class is probably the best choice, because you get a chance to have an instructor. Our instructors have over a 90% approval rating, passage rating. And when you spend the day with them and learning about the program before you have to take the test. And then obviously, if you're looking to re-up the in-person test, the benefit of that is you do that digitally, and you find out realistically, almost in real time, whether or not you passed. You can almost print off your certification. So please reach out to us, ctrestaurant.org/servesafe. You see our website at the bottom. Really, everything is there for you. And then the last thing, I just want to bring it up because I told my board, and they kind of are like, wow, that's very aspiring. We're having the crazies this year. I know our vaccines, it's December 6th. It's a save the date moment for you guys. I really think it's extremely important. It's down at Foxwoods. It is our celebration of our industry. Every year we give out incredible awards, but this is going to be a crazies event unlike any other, where we're going to hopefully get a chance to see beyond this pandemic and celebrate each other, our teams. And I look to, we had 800 people in 2019. I asked my board for 2,000. So that is a lot of people. I know that's worry of COVID, but hopefully by the time we get to December, we're in a different place. And also it's an opportunity for all of you that maybe have never been there before. It's an incredible event, an opportunity to stay at Foxwoods and enjoy and kind of let your hair down and enjoy the industry with your colleagues and your peers. So, and then the golf tournament, we are looking into the summer, early summer again. So that's my association update. Connecticut Restaurant Relief Fund. As you guys know, I talked about that at the beginning of this. We launched about a week and a half ago. We really want to thank DoorDash. They gave us the seed money and $500,000 that went to our foundation. That's allowing us to provide these grants. We're hoping to provide anywhere between 95 plus right now of $5,000 grants. For this, we have over 550 completed applications. So as you can see, we're not going to be able to take care of everybody. It's like anything. I'm trying to raise additional dollars. I'm trying to talk to other corporations, private donations. People are doing incredible things. Someone's running 48 miles in 48 hours to raise money. Asked me to join them. I said I might be willing to walk. I don't know if I can make it even half that. But people are doing some incredible things to help us raise money. You guys know about our Hospitality Employee Relief Fund. It's already $165,000 and growing and helping the employees. This is here to help the restaurants and the ones that are the hardest hit. Please understand, it's not first come, first serve. There is a rubric. Our foundation, some of our board members and our team in the foundation, and our team's not very big, a lot of us are going to go through that process and understand you're selected based on a holistic list of rubric of scaling based on federal grants you've either received, state grants you've received. There's definitely been some restaurants that have been left out of state and federal funding just based on no fault of their own, when they opened, when maybe other challenges they maybe faced or those things where they're located. So we are trying to help as many restaurants as we can, and we hope the application process ends on Friday, and we will then start working, and hopefully by the middle to the end of the month, start awarding those grants out there. And if we hopefully can raise even more dollars, we will continue to go through the list to help more restaurants along the way. So I just continue to, can you guys not hear me? Everybody else can hear me? I have some. Nicole, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. All right, perfect. Hoping if you guys turn up your volume, I have my volume all the way up. So that's just a quick update on the relief fund. We are appreciative of DoorDash and what they've done. I know there's a lot of caterers and private event venues that have reached out to us saying, what about us? I get it. Understand that DoorDash, is wanting to focus this on restaurant specific. You don't have to be a DoorDash member. You don't have to be a CRA member to receive this grant, but they want to target restaurants. That's why we're looking at other ways to raise money to help the caterers and the private event venues as well. All right. Federal and state financial support. This is kind of a long slide here, but I'll go through it quickly. You guys should all know we've gone through this. We had an SBA webinar. If you haven't seen 2 weeks ago with some of the folks at the SBA, there with the stimulus package that passed in December, there was either the first draw or second draw of PPP. There was $285 billion allocated. If you are a restaurant, a caterer, you have NAICS code 72 is what your starting code is. You receive 3.5 times instead of 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. You can thank the National Restaurant Association and many of the state associations that push senators to get that extra month in payroll. You have 24 weeks and 60-40 use of those funds, 60% going to payroll, another 40% can be used for a whole list of other things. Obviously, our recommendation is to try to use it over those 24 weeks for all payroll. Your banks think it's a lot easier to give you full forgiveness. And then remember that it's fully tax deductible, both the first draw that you did back in May, or if this is your first time, or the second draw. Those are two huge wins that National pushed forward to get that extra time in your monthly payroll and also get that tax deductibility. Also, employee retention credit or employee retention tax credit. Businesses that receive PPP are now eligible for that. We are working on a webinar with Bill Clark and Jason Hurth and the team there, our CPAs and our endorsed partners, as well as I know Markham and Cohn Resnick. We are trying to put together a webinar next week where we can go through the ERC a little bit in more detail for you folks. Definitely something you want to take a look at. You could get credit in 2020, $5,000 per employee for the year. But if you go in 2021, you get $7,000 per employee per quarter. And as long as you're not using the same dollars for PPP for the same employees, you could actually take advantage of both. Again, it's like I say before, don't leave any dollars or opportunities on the table to save your industry. We're just trying to provide you guys as much. I'm not going to go into a lot of the weeds of this today. That's going to be separate for another webinar. I'm not an expert in any of this. I just wanted to provide what is out there for you and understand that we are a resource as much as we can be to help you guys through this process. This Shuttered Venue Operator Grant Program, or what they call SVO. I don't know if Sharon is on this morning, but I understand that I know that was part of the $15 billion live event grant program. Many of you on this call are not eligible. This is targeted towards live event venues, zoos, museums, aquariums, performing arts centers, not so much of a private event wedding. You have to be able to sell tickets to it. You have to have a certain amount of revenue brought in. Again, though, if you're in that category, you think you could be, reach out to us. We'll put you guys in touch with the SBA. They're still working on guidelines with that, but there's definitely substantial revenue in that. It's 45% of your 2019 gross revenue, up to $10 million in grants. It's great. I hope that some of the folks that are eligible, if you're on this call, if I look at our Connecticut, like the Mystic Aquarium, you look at some of the live venues, hoping, like the Yard Goats and Dunkin' Donuts Park, some of the things like that matter to us in Connecticut and matter to our restaurants, of making sure those performing arts centers, those museums, those zoos make it. We're here to help. So if you have questions, we're happy to put you in touch with to make sure you're applying. And the last thing is the state grant programs that have been unveiled. We've talked about this at length. There's the $50 million CARES Act grant. There's the 35, which was the 10,000 businesses receiving $5,000 grants. Please understand, 19,000 people applied, 10,000 grants have gone out. They didn't help everybody. As far as the $35 million business recovery grants, those dollars have also already gone out. That's 2008 businesses. I believe about 1,254 are targeted towards our industry, about 60% plus in the catering, restaurant, private event venue world, which is great news. I know it didn't help everybody here, but at the same time, I'm appreciative of Commissioner Lehman and the governor for making those funds available. And those checks went out really at the beginning of January. They should have been a hard check mailed to you. There is a hotline number and such if you want to call and make sure if you did not receive your grant or have questions for the DCD and the DRS. I'm going to take a quick breath here. You should not have received a response if you applied for the DoorDash grants. As long as it's completed, we will update everybody moving forward as we continue to go through that grant program. The application process is still open. It'll be open through Friday. Just looking at for PPP2, if you're unable to bring the original FT count. Okay, yeah, that's a great question. This safe harbor, if you guys remember, part of the Flexibility Act, everyone was so worried about the FTE number. When you got your money, you had to bring your FTEs back by the end of that 8-week period or 24-week period. That is not the case. What's called safe harbor in our industry, as long as you've been restricted or you've had restrictions during the time that you're using the funds, you do not have to show that FTE count back. And so you should have done that, and you're forgivable in your first draw, and this will be the same for the second draw, that you'll still have restrictions as you're using the dollars. Okay, so that state and financial federal grant program, again, we are a resource. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have great connections now with the SBA. If you're having hardship with your bank, if you're having challenges, or you're worried about taking out a PPP, you're worried about, you have questions about ERC, you don't know if you qualify for SVO, or you want to ask us questions about the DCD, that's what we're here for. All right, national. This is where we get to some of the fun. Unfortunately, are good, bad, or indifferent. If you guys are following the national news, we know obviously since Biden took office on January 20th, a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks, really down there, about a stimulus package, really first and foremost. I know we had the stimulus package passed in December, but Biden's team, as well as Democratic leadership, are pushing for another package. What is in that package officially is kind of all over the place. So I'm going to give my best Sean Kennedy update for you guys here today on the National Restaurant Association side. So I'm getting to that kind of second piece. So in that, there's talk about $1,400 additional stimulus checks. You know, the $600 checks went out. They're trying to do another $1,400. That's a cause for concern down there. Some of the Democrats think that's too much, or it needs to be targeted to people making less money. We'll see how that plays out. There's additional small business grant programs within there. What that means for our industry, I don't think it's going to be the Restaurants Act, or at least not at the level that it is. But there could be other opportunities for more grant dollars on a federal level for you, even in addition to PPP. We don't know whether or not you take PPP, will you be eligible? All that's up in the air. But I know there's a lot of small caterers out here that don't have staff, that couldn't do PPP, that maybe there's eligibility here for them. Like, we are going to continue to push for everybody associated with our industry to try to get additional funding and additional help. We know the PPP is great, but it's not a savior. It's just another opportunity for us to get to the spring. So we'll see that. State and local government funding, that's a cause for concern. The GOP does not want to give more monies to states and local governments. This would be a benefit if we did receive it. If you guys understand, the CARES Act money, the $35 million and $50 million came out of that original funding program, $1.38 billion that the state received. Expanded unemployment benefits, great question for our staffs and everything else, looking to extend that beyond. All of that is in that bill. But something that is really the bigger ask for me today, to everybody here. Biden ran on this. It's very scary for a lot of us. On a federal side, he is trying to pass a $15 minimum wage. But the bigger piece to this is there's the elimination of the tip credit that is floating around in DC and how it would be put forward. I've already had conversations with Senator Blumenthal. I'm hoping to have one with Senator Murphy very soon, as well as our 5 other delegates. Understanding, you guys should all know that we at a state level have got engaged with the tip credit over the last, 20 years, but 2 years ago in 2019, we were able to freeze and decouple it. The 638, 823, the server and bartender wages are frozen in our state. However, if federal was to ever pass an elimination of the tip credit, it would go away. You would not, it doesn't matter what our state does, federal takes precedent. So it is something that is a huge concern for all of us. understanding the $15 minimum wage does matter as well. Please understand, if $15 passes federally, it'll just be another open invitation for a $20, a $24, as Nicole probably bring up later, fight for minimum wage in Connecticut, because they'll say, well, wait a minute, if it's 15 in Georgia, it should be higher here. So both of those issues should scare you, and understand that there have been fights, never really at a federal level. It's always been at state levels, or in Washington, D.C. 3 years ago. Servers and bartenders, if anybody's on here or listening or does that on the side, understand the concern. You're looking at in some of the states that have the tip credit of $285, it's a 600% increase to your bottom line and payroll. And then a lot of, you look at California, Washington, Oregon, I was like, oh, well, they've done it out there. Understand that what they've done is they now have service charges, and there's different models. And the tipping model is really not there anymore in a lot of states, where they've lost, in the state of California, over 60% of their highest servers and bartenders, most experienced have left the industry, because no longer are they getting the chance to pick their hours and make $30 an hour or even more in some of the higher end restaurants. They're all now making flat wages with service charges and such. So understand that this is a big issue. There's a call to action at the bottom. Yvette will put it in the chat if you want to just copy and paste it. Please do. I've sent out emails. We've already done it. It takes you literally like 30 seconds. You can do it on your cell phone. Just hit the link, and all you're doing is you're sending an email to both Blumenthal and Murphy and your house delegate. So, where I live in Simsbury, went to Johanna Hayes, and it's already written for you. You just have to put, your name, your email, and everything else. You can put your cell phone, and you send it out, and it'll be a letter to them talking about the tip credit, the concern that you have on a federal level, as well as the minimum wage and those conversations. The last update I'll give on the federal side. So what does that mean for us? Every day is a different day. We've learned that in the pandemic. There's talk right now of the progressive Democrats wanting to put the $15 minimum wage and elimination of the tip credit in the stimulus bill. Yes, that should scare you, because right now, in just trying to put it out as a standalone bill, they would have to get 60 votes in the Senate. As you guys probably know, it's a 50-50 tie. It would be very difficult to get it across the Senate floor, in my opinion, even with some of the moderate Democrats. But they're trying to bargain, some of the stimulus packages with this. It is not in the bill yet, but it is something that we are keeping a close eye on. Sean sent me a note last night that says they're waiting to hear from Schumer, Senate, Majority Leader from New York, and Pelosi from California, House Speaker. They are working with Biden's team, and we are keeping a close eye. That's why that call to action is so vital for you right now. All I need you to do is take 30 seconds, click on it, send it to your managers, send it to your other partners, have them do it. You guys have done call to actions before. It's not hard, but we need to make some noise. We have to re-educate our legislators down in DC about the tip credit. Please do not use tip wage. It is not a wage. As I had a long conversation in Blumenthal last week, it is a credit based on the minimum wage. The moment your server walks into your restaurant, they're guaranteed $12 an hour. The credit just allows them to have tips with that wage. But if they do not get to $12 as of right now, they are guaranteed that every single hour that they work. You guys all know that. We have to explain that over and over and over again to legislators to make sure that our tip credit does not move or anything else. So that's really a big important part of this call today, because I know I get a lot of text and conversations from everybody about what's going on in DC, how that affects us, what's going on at a state level. But this is something that definitely should put up, go on your radar. And we ask that you just take a little bit of time, do a quick phone to action alert for the National Restaurant Association and for us to make this push. So I'll just continue to look through questions, but I'm seeing that there's just a lot of questions back on stimulus from your 1040s. We'll try to answer those as we get later on. I just want to make sure we get to Nicole, because I know that we have a lot of legislative updates. So any other questions, please write into the chat on minimum wage, elimination of tip credit. I want to be confident and hopeful that we make sure this doesn't pass on a federal level, obviously for all the reasons that I said. Okay. Outreach to our delegates. If you have any relationships with them beyond the phone to action, shoot them an email, shoot them a text, give them a call, explain the tip credit to them, explain the minimum wage, of the effect of how even $12 and going up to 15 is affecting you coming through the pandemic and everything else. So those are obviously our 7 delegates in our state. I've already reached out to each of their offices individually and continue to these conversations, but it does not hurt to have owners and operators that you have a relationship, whether it's with Blumenthal, Murphy, Himes, Larson, DeLauro, Hayes, or Courtney in your district. Please reach out to them. If you do get touch base with them, they do definitely know I'm reaching out to them as well, but it's extremely helpful. All right, before I turn it over to Nicole, last update, where we are today on the governor and DCD update on business guidelines. Yesterday's press conference, the governor moved the curfew back to 11 p.m. effective today. I think the DCD is just going to update their website. I don't know if Commissioner Lehman's going to send out a formal note or not, but it is effective today. If your restaurant is open, it can be open till 11 p.m. It's 7 days a week. It's not, I know people have asked me, oh, is this just for the Super Bowl? No, this is a long-term move to 11 p.m. Is it a full lift of the curfew? It is not. Massachusetts and Rhode Island are fully lifted. While it is great to get another hour, we are still making a push to hopefully lift this curfew at some point, but it is a step in the right direction. I have a media call right after this to talk about anything moving forward is a good thing for consumer confidence. I'm hopeful that this extra hour, especially for the full service restaurants, allows you to get your third turn at night throughout, especially on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. You can seat people at 9 o'clock and get them out of there by 11. The other update, New York, as you guys probably saw, Cuomo made an announcement on Friday of last week. He is going to allow 150-person indoor events or up to 50% capacity. I didn't put that in there. Whatever is smaller, beginning on March 15th. I know that I've already had multiple conversations with many private event venues, caterers in the last 5 days in regards to this. I will tell you that this is an ongoing discussion with Commissioner Lehman to try to do something similar. I know that your events, you're not looking to have an event on March 15th. You are trying to give confidence to your brides, to your larger event folks for May and June events, and let them know that this is still on the table. I am going to continue my leverage with the governor and his team that they need to do something similar because we need to build confidence for the folks that are looking to have large scale events this late spring and summer and not lose another quarter. You guys have already lost an entire year of events. We need to get that back. So please understand that you are a big part of our industry. Catering, most restaurants cater as well. This is a big deal. Right now we are at 25 indoor, we are 50 outside. We're still 8 to a table. All of that is on the table. We had a great day in hospitalizations yesterday. 73 we dropped. We're low 900s. We're under 1,000 for the first time since November 24th. Let's be extremely positive about that. Let's keep pushing, and let's use the curfew move and other things to look at. Let's move forward. Obviously, the other variants, the vaccines, everything else is a big part of this discussion. But please know that we are doing everything we can. I talk to Commissioner Lehman literally 3 times a day, more than I talk to probably my wife, and he talks to his wife. He has been a great advocate. He is a resource. He is fighting for us. Understand that, but there is pushback from DPH, and we are just trying to make our case to save our industry. So that's that third bullet. Roll forward discussions are ongoing. We hope sooner rather than later we could do that. We understand from the event side. I'm sorry. Yes, no, it is. I still thought it's 8 to a table. Is it down to 6 now? Nicole, maybe I thought it was still at 8. Yvette?
Scott, it's 8. I know that some people have shared 6 from a typo that was months ago. It's still 8. Yes.
Thank you, Yvette. Yes, Danita, I know that I see you on there. I'm like, yes, it's 8 to a table right now. So if you have an event of 25, you need to put them in tables of 8 rounds or whatever you need to do for a rehearsal dinner of those such, but it is 8 to a table. We're trying to get that removed as well. The last piece to this before I'll stop talking, because I know you guys are tired of hearing me talk, and I want to let Nicole explain to you everything that's going on stateside. Vaccine distribution. We're in 1B. It's a good thing. However, there's 1.4 million people in 1B. I actually will tell you guys, and I've told the governor this directly, I appreciate his plan right now of 75 and over and then 65 and over. That works well for us because at this end of the day, those are the most vulnerable. The hospitalizations, over 70% of the hospitalizations are people 65 and over. Over 80% of the deaths are people 70 and over. So understand that we want to take care of the most vulnerable. That's what his goal is right now. So it's about to move to 65 and over probably in the next 2 weeks. They're taking care of 75 and over. But once that 65 and over ends, it'll be frontline workers, which we are in there. Restaurant workers are a part of that. My ask of you is if you would like to do it, there's the link down there. Yvette, you can copy and paste into the chat if it's easier for people to copy and paste. This is not enrolling you to take the vaccine. This is a different site. This is the employer enrollment form, where if you want to go in as your business and be the point of contact of hypothetically Green Valley Hospitality, Max Restaurant Group, Hartford Restaurant Group, whatever that is, or even you're a sole proprietor, the main pub or whatever else, you can go in and fill that information in that you're not signing up for. All you're doing is putting your stuff in the queue and making sure they have your contact information, and you can start to build out your roster, because that's what you're going to have to do. Is you're going to look at your employees and be able to help them sign up for vaccines whenever that time comes. I don't want you to be at the end of the list. I want you to be, near the front. Remember, you can't register right now, but there's no harm, no foul of registering your businesses into the VAM system, the employer enrollment form. It's two different forms. There's the registration form for an individual person to go get a vaccine that's 75 and over. That is not what I'm talking about. This link is you'll see it at the top. It's employer organizer enrollment form, and you're going to put in your business name, and just so you have it in the queue, and they will contact you back, especially when you're available to register your employees for the vaccine. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. Any questions? You don't have to do it. You can do it later on, but if it's something that you want to check off your box to get into the system, it's definitely there for you to take care of. All right. Turning it over to Nicole to kind of give you guys an update and a lay of the land on state legislative proposals and bills. So Nicole, the virtual floor is yours.
Thanks, Scott. Good morning, everyone. The Connecticut legislature convened on January 6th this year. They are having a completely virtual session. So that means that every committee meeting, every public hearing is virtual. So it's basically on Zoom, YouTube, and the CTN, which is the network that we watch it. So legislators like Representative Ritigliano and lobbyists like myself are sitting with our computers, sometimes two computers, and TVs, and just watching everything that way. So it's going to be a challenging few months for a lot of reasons. We don't have that face-to-face contact with people every day where we share information, and we get to essentially stalk legislators in the Capitol and the legislative office building. So we're relying on email, phone calls, and text to get our message across. So it does pose a different challenge for us this year. I think we're going to be relying on members of the association to help us and reach out to legislators a little bit more than we have in the past when it comes time to lobby specific bills or things that we feel are threatening to the association. This session goes until June 9th. It's a budget year, so there's going to be a lot of focus on passing a state budget. And of course, there's a focus on bills related to COVID. I think that we've probably seen more bills than I would have expected in a virtual session. There's no short of silly bills this year. We've got bills to, pick a state dog, and bills to mandate that Bradley Airport has a direct flight to Jamaica. So there's the silly season hasn't gone away because there's a pandemic. We are working on a few pieces of legislation to help restaurants continue to do business the way you have been throughout the pandemic. And some of these have to do with the executive orders. I'm sure you've all seen that the governor has asked to have his executive power extended. Right now it expires on February 9th. It looks like the governor's executive power will be extended until mid-April. I think it's going to be April 20th. What does that mean for restaurants and for businesses in Connecticut? It means that some of the executive orders that are currently in effect will be extended. To-go alcohol, for example, we believe will be extended to April 20th. Expanded outdoor dining, which allowed you to have outdoor dining in places you normally wouldn't have it, and use the expedited municipal permitting. Let's say on sidewalks and parking lots, etc., that will also be extended until April 20th. What happens after April 20th, we'll get to that in a second. And so we are working on legislation to ensure that those things are able to continue. So some of the governor's many executive orders will continue beyond February 9th and some won't. As far as his executive power, right now it's going until April 20th. What happens after that is unknown. If things are going in a much better direction, the legislature could decide not to extend those, and then that will be the end of it. And the world goes back to some kind of normalcy at that point, or it's extended for another shorter period of time. It's all very up in the air, and there's no answers to that at this point. So because things are so up in the air, what we are working on is a bill that would make permanent to-go alcohol, which we've heard from a lot of restaurants has been a very consumer-friendly thing. A lot of customers have enjoyed being able to get, margaritas to go or wine to go or whatever the case may be throughout the pandemic. So actually this Thursday, there's a hearing at the Capitol on a committee that Representative Tigliano sits on. Scott will be testifying in favor of a bill that includes alcohol to go. There are actually two bills that have this in it. We know we have support from Democrats and Republicans. We have support from the Lamont administration on this issue. So we are feeling we're in a good place on this issue becoming law. Another issue we're working on is the expanded outdoor dining. We basically want to make it so there's no hiccup in that situation, so that when spring and summer get here, you can continue to quickly move to these outdoor tents and these patio areas to have as much capacity as you can possibly have outside. And if we are still on limited indoor capacity and those kinds of things, that outside becomes the best option. I think we also believe, and everyone will probably agree, that people are still going to feel most comfortable dining outside, at least for the foreseeable future. So we want to give everyone the best option you have to allow for the outdoor dining. So that is something else we're working on in the legislature, and we're trying to basically fast track that proposal so it happens sooner than later, so there's no gap in that time frame there. I don't know if Dave, you wanted to add to that before I move on.
No, Nicole, you summed it up well. Both of those proposals enjoyed bipartisan support, so we're hoping that we could codify that in law.
Great. On the next point here, we have grants, tax relief, and permitting. I think what we mean by that is we are seeking support of the legislature to continue to help the industry out, and whether that is some kind of tax relief for the foreseeable future, whether that is relaxing permit fees, whether that is another round of grants in a state budget. There are a lot of ideas being tossed out there that we are talking to legislators in the administration about, and we will continue to do that and hope that one of the ideas or more is something that the legislature and the administration can get on board with, and that we find ourselves being able to share with you sometime in May or June some more relief for restaurants as you get to a point of recovering. What that is, we don't know yet. It's very early in the session. Bills are still being proposed. Most committees have a deadline of mid to late February to raise bills. So we've got weeks left of bills that can be raised. And that brings us into the next couple of points. For those of you that have been active in the association for at least the past 6 or 7 years, we've had a bill that we call predictive scheduling. It is a bill that would basically mandate businesses post their schedules 2 weeks ahead of time. And if you don't post them or you make changes to them, you can be penalized for that. It is a bill that would obviously negatively impact the hospitality industry. It is a bill we've opposed and is not obviously passed in all these years that we've been fighting it. We aren't the only industry that has issue with this. Certainly retailers have a problem with this bill. To me, this bill seems, this is a very tough time to put a bill like this forward. Restaurants don't know what their capacity is going to be, or if they're even going to be open in 2 weeks, never mind to post schedules in 2 weeks. Not sure where that bill is going yet. It has been proposed this year by the Senate president. We will see if it gets a public hearing and what happens with that. There is a bill this year to eliminate the tip credit. It is a bill that was put in by request of a constituent of a legislator from New Britain. We don't know yet if it will get a public hearing or what kind of attention it will get. Representative Tigliano also sits on the Labor Committee, which is the committee that this bill would have a public hearing in. If it does get a public hearing, it will likely move out of that committee because of the makeup of that committee. Certainly we'll keep people posted as to when you would need to be active and reach out to legislators on that bill. We're hoping it doesn't see the light of day beyond the Labor Committee. It's an issue that we feel we've worked on for a very long time, especially 2 years ago, when we were able to basically change the structure of wages paid to tipped employees. There are hundreds of other bills floating around that we're following on behalf of restaurants in Connecticut that have to do with alcohol, that have to do with wages, that have to do with workers' comp, unemployment comp. We don't know what they're all going to look like yet because they haven't been drafted into full bills yet. They won't have public hearings for a few weeks. On most of those bills, Scott will be testifying virtually to these committees where he'll have an opportunity to speak to the positive or negative impacts that they'll have on the industry. In some cases, we might be reaching out to specific members and asking you to testify, as these might have implications on your restaurant, your catering business, different than on others. So it'd be great if people can, volunteer or offer to do that with us. It might help, especially with some legislators in specific districts. We don't have to get into other specific bills because I don't know that, we don't know exactly how they're going to look yet. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions people have, or if Scott or Dave want to add anything to what's happening in the legislature.
Dave, you want to share anything else before I kind of give another update too? All right, well, listen, I just want to really reiterate, there's a couple other things that are on the table that I get a lot of questions asked as well, but I think for anybody that's not involved with what we do on a daily basis, understand that this is the vast majority of our efforts and our work and what Nicole does for us. She is by far one of the best lobbyists in the state. Her efforts, her relationships, her understanding, like she said before, this is just a quick snapshot. There's over 100 bills. There's crazy bills like, I'm sure I've gotten notes on, funeral homes being able to serve food, to, gift cards, issues, allergy bills. There's always things going on. I'd like to kind of say, I guess it's a silver lining when we saw predictive scheduling or elimination of tip credit. It's like maybe we're getting back to some normal again, because here comes some of these bills that we're going to have to fight back. But for people to understand that the efforts, the meetings, the calls, the testimonies, the press conferences, all the things that we do just to make sure that we hopefully get legislation passed to our benefit, but sometimes to make sure that legislation does not hurt you as a business owner or hurt our industry. And it's ongoing. It never stops. I think if anybody wants to get more involved, I can be honest, I have an outsider's perspective. I've been in this role 2.5 years. I never stepped foot in the Capitol outside of a tour when I was in college. I never knew what was really going on. And to be able to walk in those doors and see what Representative Tigliano or Nicole do on a daily basis, usually in normal times, but obviously in virtual sessions, I really have been, I guess, thrown to the fire in my first stint. 3 days in, I did a press conference about minimum wage. But understanding that sometimes the biggest victories of the CRA are some of the things you guys don't see or the public doesn't see, because it's all the efforts and the work that we put in and phone to action or things that we ask. Also, the reason I go back to membership and why you being involved, whether or not you can pay right now or not, is so important. These people putting these bills out there or putting them into committee are people that are your rep, your senator in your towns. Like we talked about, New Britain is where the tip credit bill came from, where you see allergy bills come out of what I think Guilford or down that area on the shoreline, where you see, predictive scheduling, Senator Looney in New Haven, like being able to have a relationship with you as a business owner in their district. Like those are the opportunities where I want to go and invite Senator Looney, which we've done before, to go sit down with some restaurant owners in New Haven and say, let's talk about these issues and how they affect your business. They'll hear from us. They'll listen to Nicole. They'll talk to me. But when it's someone in their district that's a business owner paying taxes, employing people, it's a little bit different of a conversation. And that's why our voice is only as big as our membership. And when we try to push back, what's going on. So other things, just really quick. I know third-party delivery is something that I get a lot of notes on. Understand that that is a huge challenge in Connecticut, and I will explain why. Because there's people like in Massachusetts, like, oh, look what Mass did, whatever else. To get a cap on the fees, it would right now would have to be an executive order. Because if you listen to Nicole, to get even an expedited bill on expanded outdoor dining, we're going to be pushing it for April 20th. So by the time we get a third-party cap, you're looking at probably June, when, you know, hopefully takeout's not as big of a deal, hopefully farther into the pandemic. And is it really going to be that much of a percentage of your, not saying we're not talking about it. I know Representative Tigliano, Dave and I have talked about it, but one part of it that is very important to me, and I've actually had a conversation with DoorDash, as well as trying to reach out to other third parties. I think the contract/consent is BS in my opinion. They should not be able to take your restaurant, your IP, your name and likeness, and put it on their site and try to sell your products through them without your consent. We are looking at that. I don't know if we'll be able to get the bill done right now, but California, Texas, I believe Virginia have already passed consent legislation that you have to give away your consent, that DoorDash can put your restaurant up there and have the right fees or have the right menu items. That's something that is big, but I think the fee side is a bigger discussion. And understand the governor has, we've asked for it for a while, has not touched the executive order piece. He doesn't feel it's an executive order. He feels it would be legislatively. So, I mean, I know Dave might be able to chime in a little bit more, but I do think in the longer term, the consent contract discussion is definitely a big deal, because I know there's a lot of, not so much DoorDash anymore, but there's Chowhound and others that are just coming in and just posting as many restaurants on their site, and you don't have relationships with them. And that's a challenge. So that is just another side of other things that we are working on to try to help this industry as we go through this legislative session. So David, I see that you're unmuted. If you want to give any more.
Thanks, Scott. I'm back. I had a phone call I had to take, so I had to be off a little bit. It was one of the LCO attorneys who was drafting legislation for us, so I felt it important that I talked to him. I just wanted to reiterate one of the things you said before, that you'd be surprised how few emails and phone calls I get as a legislator, and how it only takes a couple to make it matter. And we as business owners have an opportunity to 2 bites at the apple, one where we live and one where our business is. So you think we get hundreds and hundreds of contacts. We don't. We get tens, maybe. So every little bit anybody can do makes a huge difference. And people notice, and they listen, and they read all the emails and take all the phone calls. It's very important.
And to that point, to Dave's point, is exactly right. If you don't have a relationship with your rep or your senator, reach out to us. We'll be happy to introduce you. We'll be happy to, if you already have a relationship and we don't know about it, that's not helping us either. I give an example of, as I've gone through the pandemic, I've found out a lot of legislators that I didn't know that well, that some of you have some great relationships with. Have known them for a long time. They go into your restaurant, they go to your facility. That matters. You guys think it doesn't, but to Dave's point, like if they get 10 calls on an issue, it's like hair on fire. Oh my God, I need to do something.
That is very true.
Not 1,000 or 100. Like, so we have an opportunity with 1,800 members now to really not be, as Tim Adams like to say, a paper tiger at the Capitol and seem like we're big. We have so many members all around the state, and even non-members that are now engaged, that we need to make sure we get through a legislative session that is benefiting our industry and towards recovery, not hurting our industry and bring it back to the negative side. So that's why the next, 3.5 months, so you guys staying involved, reading our emails, reaching out to us is so vital as we try to do a virtual session and testimony, which Dave's probably already started, which is just the weirdest thing ever.
It is the weirdest thing ever. But it's unnatural, to be honest with you. We're all at a little bit of disadvantage this year. Just speaking as a legislator, it's hard not to be in the hallway and talk to people, bump into people, and get things done. So it is more challenging. So the contact from the members to their legislators is even doubly more important this year than in other years.
No, real quick, I continue to see like 4 questions that I didn't touch on before. Food without alcohol is a topic that David and I talk about every day. I know New Jersey does not have it. New York, Mass, and Rhode Island still have it. I think our 23 list of you can have cake, but you can't have French fries is ridiculous. Let's just be clear. Like, I've shared that every single day with him. But understand the same thing with the curfew, where their stance was, is they do not want to have bad actors and and potential bars without food and everything else. I think that, working around that right now, but it is something that I'm pushing for in our phase 3, roll forward or whatever else to try to eliminate. I just think that their hesitation is, remember, we shut down on St. Patrick's Day weekend. That's what's in their mind right now. You take away food, oh my God, it's 8 deep at a bar and everyone's just drinking beer and you can't control it. No one's wearing masks. Look at what happened in New Jersey. That's what we battle. So, you have to take the wins and losses in this whole thing, but I think it's very ridiculous. I think the language should just be food with alcohol right now. And that's it. It shouldn't be, any kind of food. And you guys have gotten creative around that, but understand that is something that we are working on. It's not being lifted as of right now, but we will continue to push for as we get into the spring. People want to come in and just have a glass of wine or, a beer at I'm going to go sit with Johnny Vaughn and have, my own, there's no parade this year, but to go have, a Guinness with him on St. Patrick's Day. I want to do that if Johnny's on, but understand that we are trying to make that update and change for everybody. I'm just trying to go through any other questions that I might have missed. Another message. I know, Martha, I know it creates many, many issues, and I think using your best interest, and I know it's a challenge because, I know what I say to people is leave the plates out. I know you guys like to take a plate, but if they have nachos in front of them and they want to get another beer, there's 2 nachos left on the plate. I mean, I get it. It's you got to get as creative as you can. Throw some chili on top of the fries. I get how ridiculous it sounds, what I'm telling you. But try to I know some restaurants have really adapted to it and done some very creative things, of trying to make this work. There is a bill being discussed Thursday to require food with to-go alcohols. So yes, understand that is the to-go alcohol delivery side. We are not going to be a Drizzly service. So what we're trying to do is allow you to not only take delivery of food to go of 2 meals, but you can take a bottle of wine with you, what you can do right now. So that's what that bill is. I'm testifying anywhere between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m., I guess, Nicole, depending upon.
The bill enjoys bipartisan support and support from the DCP, but they put in specific regulations or specific things they were looking for. So we're all going to have to read it and comply.
Yeah, and so specifically on that legislation, Dave, or to Dave Woolner, it's the alcohol to go is during package store hours. So you can't be, selling alcohol to go beyond package store hours, and it has to be delivered by a person who works for you or a company that has an in-state transporter's permit. So for example, if you use Uber Eats, I know they're currently going through the process of getting an in-state transporter's permit. So they'll be able to deliver alcohol with the food as well.
Right.
Just answering Carolyn and Martha, I understand that there's always bad actors. I'm trying to do my best to enforce and make sure people understand it. And yes, I'd love to tell you I can control 8,500 restaurants and what they do and how their business. But understand that there's a reason for every guideline. While we don't always agree with all of them, there's a reason to where they're trying to go. We're trying to work with them. And I know it might oh, I left that restaurant and they didn't make me have to do it. Again, I look at you guys, the last thing you want is DCP or DPH coming into your thing and saying, oh, well, you serve those 8 people and you don't want to be, a target.
I think, Scott, you have to know your town and your customers, because really the enforcement mechanism for all these rules are your clientele. They're the ones calling the police, the health department. They're the ones complaining about you on social media. You sort of have to gauge where your customer and where your town's at. We operate in many towns. We've had the police and the health department called on every operation we run by another guest who thought we had this or we didn't do this. So you really have to gauge how your customers feel about how you're operating and what your town's going to say about you if they do come in.
That's a great point, Dave. And I think to that, understand everybody that, I only know what I know to help with enforcement. So if you are hearing things in your town that aren't part of the restrictions, as an example, Stanford was going around to restaurants and mandating that everyone wore a mask at the table and took it down to take a drink and eat. That is not a state guideline. Commissioner Lehman and I went to the mayor, we went to DPH, and we've gotten that sense fixed. But if you go and you see things that like, oh my God, DPH is telling me I have to cover my food, or people have to wear masks at the table the whole time unless they're taking a bite, like, please call us, reach out to us. We will make sure that the guidelines are state guidelines that should be followed by all 160 plus towns, not different. But understand that is, where we are with everything else. Listen, I think the bad reviews, Martha, and everything else, it is frustrating. I can tell you, I've seen them. I will give a shout out to Matt Storch if Matt is on. If you guys follow Matt Storch at Match, we have obviously everyone knows what a Karen is. I like to say that if it's a male version of a Karen is a dean, as Matt knows, because he had a customer come in and was a dean to him. And Matt did a phenomenal job. If you follow Matt on Facebook, read his response. Talking about, he went through the most polite response, literally to the point, on a customer that gave him a Yelp review and just smashed him, and never has given a positive review, has been his customer for a long time. And he said to me, Scott, I'm willing to lose that customer because I need people to understand all that I go through, all that my staff go through, and we do everything we can. And I think that sometimes there's opportunities like Matt did to get the support from your customers and get the support from the town. So I use that as an example that, Matt was, everyone, I think he got ridiculous likes and comments, but it was professional. He didn't attack the person. He just kind of wrote this long response. And then since Dean took down his review, which is great. It took down his bad review on Yelp, and kind of, it's the new Karen, I guess, to call them deans now. But that would be my response to you, Martha. I know it's not perfect. You were doing a phenomenal job, as I know, over at the river. I think the outdoor stuff and the heaters, I know that's you just keep your head up and let us know how we can help. Lifting capacity is 75%. That's part of phase 3. I want to get into phase 3 quicker than anybody else. I don't want a modified phase 3. I want to go back to phase 3, 100 inside, 75 capacity, all of those things. I said we were there in October without a vaccine. We need to be there in March with a vaccine. So that's my conversation every day. So I'm hopeful that if we keep seeing hospitalizations drop the way that they are, we might be able to get there by mid-March, in my opinion. We're going to keep pushing. So it's a good question, and we'll keep you guys posted.
I'm surprised you guys aren't asking for a bill to ban Yelp. There you go.
Say that again, Dave. I'm sorry.
We should have a bill that bans Yelp.
Tell me about it. Yeah, you guys, I know the allowing customers through social media is, especially during these times, is just ridiculous. And I think you guys know, it's the 3 to 5 percenters. It's what I deal with every day. 95% of your customers are so appreciative of what you do and helpful. You have to deal with the 3 to 5%. Same thing here with what I do with the industry, and Nicole and I deal with. I know it's not everybody, but again, it's also putting some people in their place sometimes for your benefit, because you guys are working so hard. Is 250 or below in hospitalization still the magic number? Listen, I think that's been talked about. I know that Sharon and I had talked with David, and David kind of talked. Yeah, it could be the magic number of a full lift. I don't think we need to get to 250 or below to go back to phase 3, in my opinion. So I think
we should see declining numbers, but who could tell? The governor changes his mind all the time. But I feel personally, and I'm sure Scott, what you hear is declining numbers should get us back to where we need to be.
Yeah, a 73 drop in hospitalizations over the weekend is huge. 46% of people 75 and over have already had the first vaccine. That means in 21 days, almost half the population 75 and over will be vaccinated with both vaccines. I mean, we're trying to put us through the end of month of February. Let's see where we are March 1. But I really feel like we are on a downward trend. Everyone wants to talk about the second variant and everything else, and everyone's scared about that. Please know that, just try not to, get as frustrated as I do at the media and some of the storylines. We have low positivity rate now. We're under 4% for 6 days in a row. We're dropping hospitalizations. We just have to keep pushing and keep doing our job to get our industry back open. Best way to address the rules to people. Listen, I believe, and this is just my take, I do not own a restaurant, so everyone understands, but what I've seen or best practices is you have a conversation with guests right from the beginning. It starts with your hostess. It starts with the people that are checking in, and you explain why you do what you do. You're here to not only keep them safe and keep their own guests that they've come in with safe, it's to keep the other guests safe, and most importantly, your employees safe. We follow these rules from the guidelines so you can stay open. We follow these rules so we can hopefully not have to close our doors, keep people employed. We hope you understand. If you need a mask, we have it behind here if you didn't bring one in, but we ask that you wear it around when you get up to go to the bathroom. You can take it off when you sit down. We want to take care of you, but I think if you take it in that tone, I've seen less, but you need to attack it from the beginning. If you sit back and just don't say anything, but I think it starts that first impression of what you're trying to provide to your guests. It starts at the front door when they walk in, whether it's signage or a great hostess with a conversation. I think you'll have less negative feedback, in my opinion. But again, you're always going to sometimes have the bad guest that wants to be a Karen or wants to be a Dean, and you just got to deal with that. But I can promise you, putting them in their place, even publicly, your other guests want to hear that. Like if someone's walking around without a mask on, they walk by people's tables, you putting them in their place, other people feel like, okay, they do care about it. They do care about my safety as well. So you got to kind of manage that as you go forward. De-escalation video. Thanks, Jennifer. There's a link there. ServSafe did a great one on how to de-escalate issues that you have. All right. So I don't mean to run on everybody, but I got to go do a media interview with Channel 12. Luckily, they do exist to talk about Connecticut news. No jokes aside of Channel 12's and listening and John, but I have to go do a quick interview there. But again, Nicole, Dave, my team, thank you guys for putting this together. Again, if you have any questions, make sure that slide is up for recording as well. All of our emails are on there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us individually. Give us a call, shoot us a text. We look forward to our next webinar, hopefully on ERC and some other things. And hopefully we're talking about more roll forward. So thank you guys for the time again this morning. And we will see you guys soon. Thank you.